Well, I've been to free camp since I was born, and when I was little, we didn't really have big stuff. Like, we didn't have stage sets, and we didn't have like loud sound systems and nice lighting and all that, but we had talented people in our church, so that's what we used. We didn't have the best stuff and the most quality, but we had what we had, and we used that. There was some talented youth leaders that were funny, and so they like to put on a show, and it was fun like to watch them. I remember as a kid, like one of our youth leaders, they used to dress up in funny stuff, and that got me so excited, like just to see them, and it made me want to do funny things. And like when I saw them getting into worship, it made me want to worship as a little kid, even though I didn't even know what I was doing really. But they were excited about it, so excited me as a kid. The more involved the leaders are, not just the worship team. You don't have to have a worship team to get the kids excited. You have to have leaders that are motivated for the right reasons to be there for those kids and make them feel like it's all for them by glorifying God in that way. But we pour out into those kids everything we have, and when we do that, they get excited and they realize, like, you know, they see the genuine atmosphere and they see that we're really trying to pour into them. And so when we're excited, when the band is excited, when I'm excited, when their group leaders are excited, they get excited. When I was in Columbus, Georgia in 2010, we had a national free camp there, and there was this girl there, her name was Tyasia, and she touched my life in a way I can't even explain. She made me realize that you don't have to be on the worship band, or you don't have to have a title to minister to the kids. And I was out in the crowd, and I was feeling kind of down. I was tired. Free camp drains you. I was tired, and I wasn't really getting into the motions, and I was just kind of sitting there like with a blank face, and I looked down, and she was watching me, and so she wasn't getting into the motions, and I was like, oh no, like, this isn't good. So I fought past that. I began to say, like, this kid is watching me, and so I fought past it, and I started to jump up and down and do all the motions, and I just started to sing at the top of my lungs, shout, just act silly. But it ended up impacting her camp. She told me that she practically did what I did because she thought that's what I was supposed to do. She looked up to me. So when I was interacting with the motion team and I was doing the motions, she followed me and she loved me for that. And so at that point I realized that they're watching me. And when we got into the more spiritual aspect of free camp, because it's fun, but there's also worship that's intimate, and we also teach the kids to get intimate with God, and because that's what it's about. And so, like, I started to just worship just as I normally would, like on Sunday mornings and stuff, and I got into it. And then next thing I know, I look down and she has tears in her eyes and she has her hands raised and she's just praising God like none other. And she was 8 years old. So that's really what impacted my life as far as the worship part of free camp. The most important thing to get ready for free camp for a worship team is to have a genuine heart of worship. You can't come in it thinking it's about you, and you can't come in thinking it's about entertainment. As much as you want to excite the kids, it's not about entertainment. It's about genuine worship and teaching them that there is a God out there that loves us, and his love does never fail. And you don't have to have all the lights and all the stage set, and you don't have to have big stuff, money, because I come from a church that doesn't have all that, and we still impact hundreds of kids every year at free camp. You just have to have a genuine heart of worship, and you have to be excited for what the Lord's doing in front of you. And you have to love those kids. If you want a team, you need to have training. You need to train that team and make sure that they are on the same page as you are as far as having a genuine, pure heart of worship. And it's all about pouring in God into those kids. Free camp band and motions definitely takes hours and hours of practice. We get the curriculum early in the year, and we need to start practicing like then. We normally start practicing around January. Even though free camp's not till like June, July, August, certain ones. And it's important to start practicing early to get those things down. That way we're all unified as a team and what our goals are and what just like the instruments and the band people and the motions. Worship isn't just on the stage and in the sanctuary. It's actually woven throughout the whole camp. Like we shout cadences. You know, worship can be anything from just serving a kid, making him in front of you in line, putting him first. That's serving somebody. That can be an example of worship throughout the camp, as we go into our different activities. And during our activities, we get to know those kids. They won't follow you by example if you're not leading them throughout the whole day. Like, you have to be involved. They're not just going to go into the sanctuary, and if you haven't even said hi to a single person, they're not going to look up to you and do what you do. And as a worship leader, like, you want them to worship with you. And so we have to lead them by example throughout the whole day on being Christ-like. And then when we get into the sanctuary, that's when it all comes together, and that's when all the kids realize that what we've been doing all day, like, that's what true worship is. And that's when we start thanking God for what he's done throughout the whole day. And that's when everything just kind of comes together, and it's all unified in that sanctuary, that we're all just praising God for what he's done throughout the whole day. Definitely when you walk into the sanctuary, especially after worship has already been going, you just instantly feel like a spirit of joy, and you're overwhelmed by the atmosphere when you walk in. If you have a relationship with Christ, there's no way you cannot feel anything by walking into the sanctuary. As a worship leader, being on the stage, you get to see the whole picture of the sanctuary. You get to see every single face that's in the room, and you can see the overall effect of what's happening during worship. Especially at altar calls, like, we're still on the stage softly leading worship, and you see the kids have that encounter with God, and you physically can see God touching kids. And it's not the same in each kid. Like, some will cry, some will break down and cry, and some will just be quietly raising their hands, talking to him like he was one of their best friends, which is our goal, is let them have that relationship to where they can talk to him and feel like they can go to him about anything. But you can physically see it in their face when they've been touched. And one time there was this little girl, and you want to ask them why they're crying, because you want to pray for them. And so sometimes it's just that they had an encounter with God and they're happy about it, but sometimes they have stuff that's really going on. And the first thing when you think of when you see tears is a sad thing. There was this little girl crying in Amarillo Free Camp last year, and I asked her, I was like, why are you crying? And she was like, because I've never felt this much love before. I've never felt so much worth in my life, is pretty much what she said. She said that she's never had that feeling that God has actually been into her life. And that's one, as a worship leader, that's the most rewarding thing about Free Camp, is realizing that you can impact a kid and they can have that relationship with God during worship time.